French toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, and I am a very, very happy boy right now. Joined this week by James Gisanti, who is, I don't think he cares.
No. I'm happy for you. Quite frankly, like he's a franchise player. Like, I'm happy that you've kept him.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, the Mets re-signed Pete Alonso to a 2-year deal. 1 year, it's a option after the first year. He'll be making $30 million the first year. That's the breakdown. I'm thrilled. It's distracted me for the last half an hour. It's part of the reason why we're on late. But what we are really here for is not to talk baseball as much as I'd like to. We are back once again to review tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. And it was a good one. A lot better, I think, than last week. If I can remember last week correctly, I think it was a little mid. We called it last week. They came back a lot stronger this week. So let's head starting with the main event where we saw Swerve Strickland finally get his one-on-one match with Ricochet. This has been a long time coming. It was a big-time grudge match down there in Atlanta. Good crowd for Atlanta, too. I was going to wear my Falcons jersey, but, you know. Anyway, as James takes a minute, I will recap this match here. As Swerve was making his entrance, they noted that he was wearing a robe that Prince Nana had given to him as part of the embassy, and that was something that they mentioned Swerve wore to a lot of his big matches. And as they were making note of that, Ricochet came in from behind and hit Swerve with a chair before eventually beating him down the ring and beating him down the ramp, and throwing him into the ring. Ricochet then talked some shit in Swerve's face, but Swerve decked him from his knees and then yelled at the referee to ring the bell, which was almost a huge mistake because as that happened, Ricochet very quickly hit him with a kick and then followed that up with a vertigo, forcing Swerve to kick out. Ricochet then really took it to Swerve, and eventually the two went out to the outside, where Ricochet attempted to set up Swerve for something disastrous as both men were standing on the barricade, but Swerve was able to get the upper hand up there and power bombed Ricochet perpendicular to the barricade, just spine right into the metal, and just ow. And it was a sick bump. And as we had that, we went into commercial. A bit later in the match, after a masterful counter sequence between the two guys, which ended in Swerve hitting a power slam, Ricochet kicked out of a Swerve stomp, and then that led to the two of the men going to the opposite side of the ring where they were fighting outside on the apron. And I think after a little bit of a botch, I didn't quite see it, but I heard the crowd chanting, "You fucked up." Ricochet then hit a German suplex onto the apron, threw Swerve back inside the ring, and then hit a springboard 450 that Swerve kicked out of. Ricochet then dragged Swerve to the other side of the ring, went up to the top and hit a shooting star press, and again, Swerve was able to kick out. Ricochet then lined up for a spirit gun, did the whole loading the gun taunt thing, but as he charged in, Swerve was able to recover given all of that time and hit a house call on a standing person, which is the first time I think we've seen that in AEW. It was a sick house call. Swerve then headed up top himself, and he went for the Swerve stomp, and it appeared he hit it, but upon further review, Ricochet had gotten his hands up. And whether or not he intentionally hit Swerve where he hit him is questionable at best. But either way, in getting his hands up, Ricochet was able to hit the low blow onto Swerve. And that caused Swerve to just collapse. Ricochet quickly capitalized on this, hitting a spirit gun from behind to the back of Swerve's head to pick up the win. After the match, Nana came into the ring to check on Swerve, carrying that robe that Swerve had come out in. But Ricochet came over and forcibly stole it from Nana, wearing it out as he left the ring and went in his way, up the ramp. So James, this match, great main event. I am not surprised that they had such a good match, and I'm saying that considering that I'm guessing they probably held something back because there's going to be more in this series. But this was a great television main event, and I think after all the build we've had to this match, I think it really delivered and set us up for even more in the future.
I'd agree, and it's funny. We talked about this last week because you were understandably upset about the main event match having not enough time. Like you were concerned about the start time for the match and everything. And I said to you last week, the same thing does happen with the men. And I had that worry tonight when I looked at the clock and I saw the start time for what this match was going to be. I was like, Jesus Christ, like they're really just blowing through this. But considering everything we saw, considering everything we got, that was that power bomb that you mentioned, and it was brutal. First of all, incredible balance by both men, right? Like extraordinary, like athleticism.
Prince Puma and Kill Shot out there just getting it done.
But I was back and forth on the match while I was watching it because I think I was convinced that Swerve was going to win.
Yeah, me too.
I thought we were just this was gonna be a quick little feud, and then Swerve would move on to other stuff. He still technically has unfinished business with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. It feels like it's only a matter of time before he probably gets involved with the Deathrider stuff too. So in general, I thought this was gonna be quick. So I'm like, wow, they're having Ricochet do all of this stuff. He's coming out and cheating. He's hitting him with the chair. He's getting the early advantage. And Swerve is still going to beat him? That's like, wow, they're burying Ricochet here. And then back and forth, I'm seeing that Ricochet is looking a little bit stronger. Swerve is kicking out of stuff. Ricochet is kicking out of stuff. When he kicked out of that first Swerve stomp, I was like, Jesus. Wow, that's it's not an unbeatable move. People have kicked out of the Swerve stomp, but it's still a big deal when people do.
Yeah.
So I was back and forth. And then with the finish, I like this tweet says it. Yeah, it's a good way of protecting Swerve, but how much did Ricochet need to do to beat Swerve? Like, he hit him with his finisher in the first 30 seconds. He beats him with a chair. He low blows him. He hits him with the god-awful spirit. I just don't like how it looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it's like a hidden blade, but a lariat. So
yeah, it's a reverse hidden blade. So it's a clothesline. It's like
this way. It's this way.
Yeah, I don't think it looks great.
I appreciate him though trying to get non-aerial finishers.
I agree.
And he got one with the vertigo, and it looks cool enough, but I think it's a move he can't hit on everybody, and the spirit gun is something he can hit on anybody. And I can appreciate him trying to get those types of moves in.
Absolutely. I just wish that they looked good. Like I love the vertigo. I do. I think vertigo is a great move. Like you said, he can't hit it on everybody. And the spirit gun worked when he was wrestling Ospreay, but the more and more I see it, the more and more I'm like, it's just a clothesline. Like it's not great. But beyond that, I thought the match was great. I really did think the match was great. I think it's silly that we're putting importance on this robe, considering this is the first time they've ever acknowledged the robe in any real way. Like, yeah, he's worn it before, but I have never heard that this is an important thing to Nana or to Swerve before. But good for Ricochet. He needed the win. Swerve is protected with this loss, given everything that they did, which, by the way, ref, what the fuck are you looking at? You were right there, man. Everybody else saw it. How are you not seeing it?
It's funny. Like, can the ref call incidental low blows? Like, this is me getting into the UFC thing of it again.
I had that thought and I had that question. We've seen referees call DQs for accidental hits on the referee.
Yeah.
So at what point is it, if it happens, it happens?
I mean, do you call like a stop? Like in UFC, you get 5 minutes for an accidental low blow to like recover, and then if you can't go after the 5, then then you can then you get, I think, no contest. So I mean, that's what, like, would you call it a no contest? Would you give Swerve the ability to recover, or do you just call the DQ? It's a very interesting question that I don't really know if it's come up in wrestling. I guess
I would have called the DQ.
Yeah,
I would have called the DQ, but whatever. It is what it is. This series is going to continue. I feel bad saying it because Ricochet is really putting in good work, but this still feels below Swerve in some ways.
I guess maybe a little. I don't know. I'm really enjoying what they're doing, so I think I'm okay with it for the most part. Ricochet has really, I think, come into this character just to harp on one of its points. He didn't like this heel Ricochet at first. Now he's into it. And I don't want to say I didn't like him because I just was like, all right, let's see what he does with this. And I think he's done a good job
Agreed.
For somebody who's desperately needed a character shift after all of these years. And I think going up against somebody like Swerve and beating somebody like Swerve, I know he already has instant credibility and he's come in and beaten some big names, but this is his first big name win as this heel character. Yeah. And he won in a bullshit way.
Whoa. Are we saying a big win over AR Fox means nothing?
It's a solid win. It's not a big win. You beat a former AEW champion, it's one thing. You beat AR Fox, it's another. But I think that, I have been enjoying Ricochet a lot here. So this was the result I expected because they need to build this character. And I'm totally okay with it. I liked how they got there. It was a very unique way to do it. So I'm cool with everything that happened tonight. And as to your point with the robe thing, yeah, I mean, AEW does this every once in a while. They'll just invent something like, hey, this is the robe that he's been, we talk a lot about Hangman burning down Swerve's house. We didn't know it was a goal of Swerve to buy his childhood home. They could have built that up for weeks.
and I agree. That's a great point.
It's an extreme example, but
the visualization of a house burning versus a man wearing another man's robe. They are two different levels of disrespect.
As you know, it said before we started the show, every wrestler who's ever wore a robe must be sick to their stomach watching that. There's some things you just don't do in wrestling, and that's one of them. Respect the robes. Ric Flair rolling over in his grave right now.
After you get over with the crowd, the real test is if you can pass it on to someone else. Swerve Strickland has elevated Ricochet, helping him become one of the most intriguing characters in AEW. Swerve just knows how to bring out the crazy out of people. And look, I prefaced it by saying I recognize Ricochet is doing great work. I guess to Eric's comment, Swerve can't always be in the title picture, but it shows exactly why him and Hangman are great. No matter who they feud with, they make the best out of it. That is a great counterpoint as well. So I guess it's just I'm antsy to see Swerve do something that feels monumental because that's how I view him as a star in AEW. But it is a great point. Ricochet has absolutely benefited from it, and it's very much on the shoulders of Swerve being his opponent.
Yeah, because they play off each other really well. They've had a lot of interactions in their past that they can build off as well, both those that they can acknowledge and those that they can't. And the level of violence Swerve usually goes to allows Ricochet to become this more violent character. And it works perfectly because, yes, Ricochet is already a well-known commodity, but he wasn't one in AEW, and his heel character is not. And allowing the established commodity of Swerve to help build this new one is a perfect thing to be doing with a guy like Swerve right now, who doesn't necessarily fit into the title picture at the moment.
No, for sure.
So it's a high-profile feud for both of them. It's keeping them on TV. So I think it's perfect booking here by Tony Khan, in my opinion. All right, I just wanted to briefly say hello to everybody else, as we had our friend DGN in the chat calling Ricochet Rick Jobber. You could say that, but Rick Jobber won tonight. So who did the job?
and then Riccaboni.
And then Danny coming in with the LFGM. Let's go. We're very happy, James.
Buddy, I have never, not once, have I ever rained on your Mets parade. I want that on the record.
You tried to with Juan Soto, but
no. You guys were pissing in the wind, and I happened to be to the left of you. You made sure I got hit. When it happened, I congratulated you. It was Danny consistently busting my balls. It was you egging him on, and it was Eric being a gremlin, just stoking the flames.
A, Eric is a bandwagon fan. B, I took the piss out of everything when
I did nothing wrong. I was a good boy about it. You guys were mean. Anyway,
it's classic Mets Yankees. Yankees are like, oh, good for you guys. We're like, fuck you. That's how it goes. All right, let's move on before I get caught in the weeds here. To start the show, we saw, I believe, both Swerve and Ricochet enter the building, and then we went back to the building entrance, the loading dock, where Renee Paquette was there to introduce Switchblade Jay White as he was entering the building. She starts off by asking him about his newfound relationship with Adam Copeland, and Jay says that it's something that's building in real time, and that he's previously talked about needing help from people he normally wouldn't get help from. So now he needs to rely on Copeland and FTR, since the Deathriders always seem to have the numbers. However, as White is finishing up that thought, the camera pans around and we see the Deathriders start strolling down the loading ramp. And as they're doing so, Rated FTR sneakily comes in behind them. So White starts counting up the numbers of the Deathriders and up to 5, including Marina. And he's like 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay. That seems to be everybody. And there's much to the confusion of the Deathriders, especially Claudio, who sold the hell out of the confusion. Jay then explains that they're right on time, and the Deathriders turn around to see Rated FTR there, and the brawl begins, with Marina just deftly scooping Renee and running her off to keep her
safe.
Best
part of the entire night. It truly, I know it's silly to say, I love these little details that AEW does, and it was fantastic.
She even with a bit of a scream too. She was like, ah, and then just gone. We didn't see Marina all the way until the end of the brawl.
It was definitely a yelp.
Good word. There was a yelp. Anyway, this brawl spills all the way through backstage, out to the ramp, and then into the ring, where, as amongst a lot of chaos, Switch was able to hit Yuta with a Blade Runner, and Pac got hit with a Shatter Machine for his troubles. And eventually, Moxley and Claudio were able to take control of the ring, getting the upper hand and soloing out Switchblade after they took out FTR. As they're stomping out White, Copeland comes into the ring and lines up Moxley for a spear, but Claudio sees it, shoves Moxley out of the way, eating the spear for, I guess, his boss or whatever, his leader, fearless leader.
His master.
Copeland then gestures at Moxley to come at him, but Moxley instead retreats, no longer having the numbers, and regroups with the rest of the Deathriders out in the crowd. Copeland then grabs a mic, demanding an answer to the challenge he made on Collision for an AEW World Championship match at Revolution. I think Copeland says something to along the effects, if you still have your balls, you'll answer me. This pissed Moxley off, so he headed back over to the timekeeper area to deliver his message, saying that Copeland deserves nothing, so he'll get nothing, finishing with an emphatic no. Switchblade then grabs a mic and angrily throws out another challenge, him and Copeland against Moxley and Claudio in a Brisbane street fight at Grand Slam. And Moxley apparently seems to accept that. That was the indication they gave over on commentary. James, this was a fun opening segment, though. It reminded me a lot of the one from 2 weeks ago with Ospreay and Kenny getting into that big drag-out brawl with the Don Callis family. And it's kind of nice because you're not starting with the match, which I feel like something AEW is usually pretty good about, but you still get a fight to start the show. So I like this balance of promo / brawl to begin the show. It adds a lot of excitement. You kind of get this shit out of the way early, which I'm not super complaining about because I've actually enjoyed some of the stuff that's been going on with the Deathriders, surprisingly a little bit. But now we got this one. This is the best thing I think they've done in a while with these two groups. And it was a good, fun way to start the show.
I agree. It switched things up, which is good.
No pun intended.
Yeah. It was a fun play on what we have seen from the Deathriders, which is the beatdowns, the jumpings, and we saw that the good guys are smartening up a little bit. I like that. Of course, I love the Renee bit. And I think my issue with everything Deathriders is how much the original mission statement for them feels like it's been lost and how muddy things are now. Mox, his whole thing was he wanted people to step up to him. Come on, you're better than that.
But there's a reason I did it on the side.
Yeah.
Bonk.
His whole thing was he wanted people to step up to him and prove that they're worthy of being the champion. So when people do step up to him, no, you don't deserve it. Like, come on. Take any challenger. That's the gimmick. That's the story. So I don't know. I wasn't crazy about that. And then I love that immediately after he still accepted the fight from Jay White.
I guess they saw it as an opportunity to try to take these guys out. I think did FTR win the match on Collision? I'm
going to go out on a limb and say no.
Okay, I'll double check, but yeah, either way, like it's weird because producer boy, can you check that for us? Isn't that why you're here? But you're right. It is weird because Moxley's whole thing seems to be it's trial by combat, right? And best person who can step up and wins actually deserves to have the title. And he has mostly just been outright denying people. If FTR beat the Deathriders on Collision in the street fight. And I can kind of see why he would be denying Copeland. He did say specifically, you deserve nothing. And Copeland hasn't won that many matches to deserve a title match. Okay, thank you. FTR did beat Deathriders.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
I would say I was pretty sure they did, but I couldn't remember. But yeah, I could see like Moxley said Copeland doesn't deserve it, right? To a certain extent.
But it just comes across that he's afraid of him.
It does, which is why there are parts of this I like, but the hypocrisy of the group, I think, is a huge detriment to it. We harp on a lot of things with the Deathriders and the way they're presented and everything, and a lot of it is valid criticism. The big one for me is the hypocrisy of the group, where Moxley wants people to fight and step up and then refuses challengers quite consistently.
I get that, Patton Oswald. I get that. But I don't know. I should we talk a second? That's really funny.
Oh, they retired. I was at that retirement.
Can we talk about for a second? Because I was about to lament that, there's going to be another tag match at Grand Slam in Australia.
Yeah.
Can we spend like maybe 30 seconds acknowledging the silliness going on about Grand Slam?
Sure.
Guys, we've had, I think, 4 Grand Slams at this point? Maybe 5? No, it's 4, right?
I thought it was 3 because I've been to 2.
Maybe it is 3. All right. Regardless, we've had several Grand Slams at this point. Every single one of them was on television. Every single one of them was a Dynamite or a Rampage or a Collision. None of them have been a pay-per-view. Australia. Nobody comes over to you. What?
I don't think this one's a pay-per-view.
No, but that's the problem. A lot of people are complaining. A lot of Australians are complaining, thinking that they were getting a pay-per-view when in fact they're just getting a Collision.
Well, they're getting I guess it is technically a Collision. It's in that time slot. Or it's actually worse. It's following All-Star Saturday night. NBA All-Star Saturday night. So, you'll have the lead-in of the dunk contest, but the dunk contest sucks now.
Yeah.
So shout out Matt McClung. We like him.
Regardless of any of that, be happy that someone decided to fly out to you and give you a show at all. You don't get much. So don't nitpick. And regardless, our Grand Slams are going to be better regardless. You're lucky you got the name. I digress.
They got the name, and they're not even having it in the place where they have the Australian Open anymore. They moved it.
The irony.
So, look, I'm looking forward to that card. I'm not going to pretend around it and then say like I'm not. I wasn't sure what they were doing with it broadcasting wise, but for me now, it's actually kind of easy. I'll just cruise on TNT all night because I'll be watching All-Star Saturday, and then I'll watch the Grand Slam.
There you go.
And it'll be fun. And hopefully the lead-in helps them. Again, the dunk contest is not what it used to be. It used to be a lot better, but All-Stars don't do it anymore, so it kind of gets annoying. There's some good young names in there I'm actually excited to watch, though. But basketball aside, hopefully they get a good lead-in from that. Please let the three-point contest let that happen. And then maybe people will stick around. It's going to be on late, but hopefully they get it on to Max quickly and people can watch it the next day on Sunday because All-Star Saturday night doesn't end so somewhere between like 11 and midnight.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I'm hearing that it's supposed to be on at like 2 a.m.
No, Saturday night doesn't go that long.
But I think it's because of the time difference in Australia.
I know, but it says immediately following All-Star Saturday night. The promo.
Right, fair enough. Fair enough.
So I don't know what time they're starting it in Australia, but if the 11 here was like 16 and a half hours, I can't do math.
Fans in Australia feel scammed by AEW after Grand Slam was changed from a stadium pay-per-view to a TV taping, and all the anger is completely justified. People paid stadium prices, booked flights and hotels, and now they're getting a half-ass show in a different location with no compensation. A show that AEW still has no idea when or where it'll be shown or what the final card will look like. Here's the thing, though.
A, that's wrong. And B, that Air Gold guy sucks.
Air Gold sucks. But do you know why they had to change the venue?
Because nobody bought tickets.
Nobody fucking bought tickets.
Because where the Australian Open is in the middle of fucking nowhere.
So, again, I do sympathize, actually. I do. If people were flying out, if people bought tickets that weren't being refunded or being exchanged, I do sympathize with those Australians. But clearly there wasn't a lot of you.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for AEW, but
no,
yeah.
I mean, you said it. They booked it in the middle of nowhere. Australians were saying, why the hell did they book it this far?
Yeah, so then they moved it, and now everyone's complaining that they moved it after you complained. It was, look, you're not going to win on the internet. Everyone's going to complain, especially that schmuck. So I think he should go. He should also never be mentioned on this podcast again, along with that other idiot. So
there's a few.
Yeah. But all right. As for the opening stuff, it was good. I liked it. Exciting way to start the show. After that, we had a quick recap of Buddy Matthews challenging Kazuchika Okada for the Continental Championship at Grand Slam. Buddy really got Okada off balance there by calling him a bitch after Okada declined his initial challenge. So that match was made. After that, we had a match where Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay. Hey, this is Don Ospreay. Will Ospreay was facing off against a Don Callis family member of that carny piece of shit's choosing. So after Will made his entrance, that carny piece of shit came out and introduced Ospreay's opponent, a man who's gone up and down the road with Ospreay and somebody whom Ospreay considered a brother. And the man that Callis dubs the Ospreay killer, Mark Davis. Ospreay is obviously in a bit of shock and disbelief, which quickly turns to anger, and he's just completely irate, screaming at Davis for joining Callis and slapping him in the face to start the match as the crowd chants, "You sold out" at Davis. Now, very early on in commentary, Callis explained that when Davis was in the hospital following his injury, he apparently gave Fletcher a power of attorney. So when Fletcher signed to the Don Callis family, Fletcher signed Aussie Open as a whole to the contract. So now Callis owns Fletcher. Well, I guess he owns Fletcher, but he also owns Davis. And Davis either does what Don says or he sits at home and doesn't make a paycheck. And Don's first assignment for Davis is injuring Ospreay before Grand Slam in this match. So
that's not legal, right?
well, I mean, he has a contract, and then it's wrestling.
No, but what I mean is like power of attorney for what did Davis have? Like, what was his injury?
I don't know, but I mean, if you're like hopped up on drugs, you probably shouldn't be making legal decisions. So
Of course, but I don't think a business decision in any court of law would be held up.
probably not. But I mean, you're gonna get smart Mark Sterling to litigate this for you? Like,
No, you get an actual lawyer. You get David Otunga.
I'm trying to think of another wrestling lawyer. Good shout.
But we have been talking about this for a while. You and I on this pod every Wednesday for several weeks. We're debating what do we do with Mark Davis.
Well, when he's on television, he
Yeah,
hasn't been on for a few weeks.
When he was, because it was the heat of it for a while that he was part of the feud. He was teaming with Ospreay. He was conflicted about fighting Fletcher. What do we do?
Yeah, in the Casino Gauntlet match, if I'm not mistaken, or the War with the Battle Royal. It was something like one of those two.
And the reality is, there was really no good option. Him staying a babyface wasn't it, because clearly the fans weren't responding that much to him. Him joining the Callis family felt like it was inevitable, but we were nervous about it because he shouldn't be teaming with Fletcher. It's beneath Fletcher at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But then to not have him team with Fletcher means that he's just the stepping stone to Fletcher and to Takeshita anyway.
And so we already have two of those in the Don Callis family.
Exactly, with Cage and Archer. So no matter how you paint it, no matter how you portray it, he's just kind of a loser in the situation. And it sucks. Like, I think he's a good worker. I thought he put on a good match against Ospreay tonight. Granted, it's hard not to put on a good match with Will Ospreay. Yep. But man, talk about a no-win situation for a guy just because he came back injured and his partner blew up.
Yeah, he like unintentionally got Janetti'd, and I hate using that phrase with tag teams, but it's kind of what's happening to him. Now, I am lockstep with you that I thought initially putting him with Don is bad for all the reasons you stated, but I do kind of like this wrinkle to it, because it adds a layer to the character that we wouldn't have gotten had he just joined the Don Callis family and was the bad guy.
See,
there's this layer where Don owns him and he's doing all this shit reluctantly.
I'd agree if any movement he made in the match reflected that. He legit tried throwing him into an exposed turnbuckle.
Yeah,
he had
we'll
no
get to
problem.
That in a second.
He had no problem beating the shit out of him. So, was he reluctant? Or is that just like, thank God we're covering this nonsense of a storyline with Callis speaking on commentary? Because it just didn't feel like there was much synergy there. I have been surprisingly on board with a lot of this Omega Ospreay versus Callis family feud, because when it first happened and they first were getting into it, I was so miserable and I was so against it. But they've warmed me up to it. This feels like the first misstep in this program.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing we saw with Davis, I don't even want to say hesitation, but almost regret, was after the match, we saw him sitting on the outside as Kenny was walking in, seemingly regretting it. And then Kenny did address it. I do quickly just want to talk about the match before we get into Kenny. Yeah. I'll just jump to the end. See, Ospreay and Davis were both able to kick out of major blows. Davis kicked out of an Oz cutter, and Don actually hopped off commentary and looked like he was going to pull the ref out until
that
Davis
was great.
Kicked.
Yeah.
And then it was a little more back and forth before Davis caught Ospreay, like a leaping Ospreay, and like caught him, and then like midair, and fucking like hit a leaping pile driver, which was sick. And Ospreay was able to kick out of that. Following that, as we see Ospreay tweet out, Davis, you're a fucking sellout after Dynamite ended. Thank you for pulling that up, producer boy. Following that pile driver, Davis went into the corner, and as you said, James, he ripped off the middle turnbuckle pad as the ref was checking on Ospreay before returning to him and picking Ospreay up. However, as Davis went to spike Ospreay into that exposed turnbuckle, referee Rick Knox saw it, stopped Davis, which is probably the most competent thing he's ever done on Dynamite. And Davis started arguing with Knox, eventually dropping Ospreay, allowing him time to scurry over into the other corner and recover. As Davis continues to argue with Knox, he grabs him and turns him around. And as he turns around, he eats the full-on elbow of a Will Ospreay hidden blade, and then Ospreay pins him for the win. So as you said, James, good match. The ending, you're right, it does leave a little ambiguity to whether or not Davis really does want to do this or not. Maybe he did and then regretted it. Maybe he didn't and just had to go all out and put on the show. Like who knows? Like there's something here, and I'm willing to let things play out. So the wrinkle in this is allowing me to give it a couple of weeks to be like, all right, what do you got going on here? But if it is what we think it is, then I'm probably going to sour on it pretty quickly because it's just going to kill Davis, like we said.
Yeah, and I feel bad. Mark Davis is not the hill I'm willing to die on in terms of booking decisions in any company. But yeah, it does feel like a guy is just sort of being thrown somewhere for the sake of being thrown somewhere. Match was well done. I love the little, I don't know if you mentioned it, but I love that at one point he threw up the United Empire sign and then quickly like pulled it down, realizing what he was doing. That, as far as I know, was probably the only real reference to his struggle with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, not that I'm trying to disparage Mark, but Will could have a great match with anybody, and this was just another great match of his, or another good match of his.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I don't want to give ho-hum about a good Will Ospreay match, but
yeah,
it's almost par for the course with him, which is kind of annoying almost, but
yeah,
it is what it is. After the match, Ospreay grabbed the mic and he talked a little shit and then introduced his new friend, talked a little shit to Don, and introduced his new friend, Kenny Omega, who came down to the ring. Kenny first actually addressed Davis, as I was mentioning, saying he doesn't know what Callis has on him, but there are people who can help him get through this, no matter how scary he thinks it is, which I thought was a nice touch by Kenny.
Yeah.
Then Kenny continues to talk. He's just kind of, I hate to say this, but he's kind of cutting his typical Kenny promo. And then Takeshita and Fletcher come out onto the stage, but Callis stops them from going down to the ring, with Kenny saying they've done that song and dance and they're willing to do it again, challenging the two to come down, but Callis refuses to let them go. Kenny then calls their match at Grand Slam a chance for people to feel like what he was feeling back in 2019 and 2020. He also said 2021, 22, and 23, but I think we kind of lost that feeling somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And he also called it a chance to prove that the future of this company doesn't lie with the Don Callis family, but rather with people like him and Ospreay. He then hit the whole "I bid you adieu" thing, and a bunch of pyro went off at the end that Kenny did not know about. He was like, that one even shocked me. So, look, James, as for Kenny promos, we all know he's not the best promo, but he kind of goes out there and talks. And I enjoy them, even though he doesn't necessarily say anything, but I thought he had some good points in this one.
Yeah, no, what more is there really to say at this point? We've talked about how there's sort of a bigger gap waiting for this show. So it's probably just one of those things that he needed to have his appearance. Quite frankly, I probably would have had him wrestle, but instead of Ospreay, because I feel like Ospreay's been doing the majority of the wrestling since Kenny's come back and this feud has started. But that's fine. I've been saying Kenny should be treated like a big deal and should feel like a major player. So to do that, you do kind of have to hold back a little bit on how often he wrestles. But hey, I'm just glad that Kenny showed up. The pyro bit was funny. And even though you're right, it was same old shtick, the crowd reacted for it. The crowd loves it.
Kenny's still just recently back. I think they're going to for a while. Kenny's funny when he's a face. He cuts promos like this, and he just kind of goes out there and shoots the shit. And like I said, I like it, but it can kind of get old, and it's why sometimes people say he's not a good promo. When we talked about this last time he talked. When he's heel and he's in full blown anime villain mode, as we say hi to Henrietta behind you, he is awesome, and I love when Kenny is like that. But we're not going to get that Kenny for a while. But yeah, I think I agree with you in terms of him not wrestling. It'd be nice to give him maybe a warm up, but you're right. They need to treat him like the big deal he is now. I imagine he'll be almost like the Bryan Danielson schedule, especially as he gets more healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with him just kind of popping up and cutting promos like this. Just, got to get him on TV. It's Kenny freaking Omega. Also, Kenny, by the way, Grand Slam is not your return to the ring in AEW. You had a match the second week you were back. So just as a reminder.
Maybe he was saying it's his first time back on in Australia.
Or maybe on Collision.
I don't know. But
maybe he made his Collision return. Which is it's also not Collision, it's Grand Slam. It's its own thing.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Did he say good night, bang, good night?
I don't know. I don't want to say I tuned that out, but I knew what he was gonna say, so I went back to typing.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Maybe.
Either way, we love Kenny, so I'm okay with that mistake.
I am being
assaulted.
I really am. Disrespect. Right.
I was gonna say. Once she goes on the shoulder, it's over.
Yeah. Oof.
You had to see that one coming, dude. Come on.
I just hoped for better.
Well, cats are evil. All right. After this, we got a pretty nice promo pack, a video package actually for Swerve versus Ricochet later in the night. It was a really well done one. And we got a lot of good clips from their altercation on Collision that I hadn't been able to catch up on. So I was very happy with what they did with that. We came back then from commercial to an in-ring promo from the Hurt Syndicate. This was awesome. Also, I'm glad we were able to wait for you. Don't worry. Also, I wanted to quickly acknowledge his, if you're going to call a lawyer, you got to call Jerry Lawyer, instead of Lawler. Well done. I laughed. Anyway, the Hurt Syndicate came down to the ring for a promo as MVP came out to deliver an official announcement from the Hurt Syndicate. He starts off by repeating his respect for a private party, saying again that they were just the wrong people with the wrong titles at the wrong time, despite the fact they held the titles with honor and fought valiantly. He then puts the entirety of AEW on notice, especially all the champions, saying that when they choose, they will come and take your title. But for now, they are open for business, so if anybody would like to challenge them, they should do so now. And as he says this, some music hits, and the lights start to go out, and we have the return of the Guns.
Yay, but...
Yes, Colton and Austin are back to immediately lose. Austin comes out and apologizes for interrupting, but he says that they wanted to come out as businessmen to conduct business. MVP says they don't look like businessmen or dress like businessmen, but they are conducting themselves like men, so he welcomes them into the ring. The Guns jump up into the ring, and after going celebrating a bit with the crowd, they say it's been 2 years since they have lost the tag titles. They never got a rematch on TV, so they once again want to come for their titles. MVP applauds them for their moxie and even kind of respects them for it, but says the only reason he hasn't had Bobby and Shelton choke them out yet is because of the respect he has for their father. But if they want a match, fine. Next week, it'll be a tag team title match between the Hurt Syndicate and a couple of ass boys, laughing as he blows past them and leaves the ring. Bobby and Shelton also go to leave, but the Guns get in a stare down with Bobby until MVP just calls him off. As they go to leave, Austin starts laughing that he called them the ass boys, saying you're goddamn right we are, and if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you: guns up. So, Ass Boys are back. Cool. They got like a week of build.
Yep.
And then they come back and they're immediately challenging the guys who aren't going to lose the tag titles for a year. Okay.
Yep. That's exactly where I am at. Thank you for saying it and not making me feel crazy. They did such a good job last week. That hype video was so good. It really got people excited for them to come back. They're back and they're immediately going to lose. Why? First of all, I guess the Bang Bang Gang is done. We speculated on it last week, but no acknowledgement whatsoever. Like, at all. And it wasn't even that, like, you could argue that Jay wasn't around. Jay almost got jumped earlier in the night. Where were they if they were with him?
He's got new friends, I guess.
So, I mean, Jay even said it in the beginning of the night, right? Like, he doesn't have his usual crew. So he's got to rely on FTR. He's got to rely on Cope. So I'm bummed about that in a lot of ways. I'm bummed that they're going to lose. I'm bummed that the Bang Bang Gang seems to be dead. I'm happy for Bobby and Shelton that they're looking so dominant. And I wonder if MVP's comments are signaling that we could expect them to also go for singles gold
while holding the tag titles.
I mean, what do you think he was saying when he said, when we want your championships, we'll come for it? I figured it was singles gold.
No, I absolutely agree with you that he meant singles gold, but because he specifically said your championship, like singular.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, you think they're going to do that while they're also holding the tag titles, or do you think he's just saying in the future, like, if we lose them? I mean, they could, but you're kind of demoting the tag titles there.
And I also think they could go for singles gold while holding the tag gold. I don't think it demotes it.
I don't know. Demotes is the wrong word, but like it does kind of put them on the back burner because they would be challenging for singles gold and not defending the tag titles.
Yeah. I mean, I could see someone like Shelton doing double duty.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
although Bobby seems like the more logical one to have 2 titles. But
yes, yeah. I agree. I agree. But yeah, time will tell on that. I'm really bummed for the Ass Boys. I'm really bummed for Bang Bang Gang, and we knew it was going to come. We knew a lot of teams are going to get fed to Lashley and Shelton. It really feels that way. But this doesn't feel like the way to do it. Not right away.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like, eventually I could see them losing to the Hurt Syndicate, but I don't understand why you're making the Guns first match back this. Because I know the Hurt Syndicate are technically heel, but they are over as hell. I mean, people were chanting "You Hurt People," and I know that's probably going to go a bit longer in Atlanta than it does in some other places. But like, they are very much over it. And if you want to have the Guns clearly returning as a face here because they have accepted the fact that they are the Ass Boys at the end of this promo, like, you have them going up against one of the most over acts in the company at the moment, and a newer act, and an act that just won the tag titles. None of that makes sense in my head. So
I agree.
It's very surprising to me. And it's saying that they would be the favorite over the Hurt Syndicate. I firmly disagree because of those reasons I just mentioned.
Yeah.
He's also asking, where is Juice? Juice, what did he do? He broke his leg, right?
He got hurt in the Continental Classic, needed surgery. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit.
Yeah, I think he did break his leg.
I think so.
Yeah, so he'll be out for a while. And then, it's recommending maybe Bobby go for the TBS championship. I'm hoping you mean the TNT. Bobby versus Mercedes Moné would be interesting, but a death trap. Shelton for the world title. Hey, look, if Shelton got the world title before Bobby, I would be awesome.
I'd shit a brick.
Yeah.
I would shit a brick.
MVP for the international championship. It'd be cool if MVP got a title. I just I don't think he's going to be wrestling enough for that.
MVP is the first ever IWGP Intercontinental Champion. So not outside the realm of possibility for him to be squaring up with a Japanese wrestler.
Yep. And then obviously I missed your sarcasm. That's my bad. Although now I have Mercedes versus Bobby in my head, and I'm like, that's Spear.
I don't think anybody wins in this scenario.
Yeah, definitely not. Anyway, speaking of Mercedes Moné, after this, we went backstage for an interview, as hopefully Renee was looking for Mercedes Moné. Instead, she got Mercedes Moné. As Renee was waiting outside of the actual Mercedes Moné locker room to try to get a word with her, Puppet Mercedes came into view and announced that Harley Cameron would be having a concert this Saturday on Collision, following her first win over Taya Valkyrie, which very much split James's heart in two. Harley then came in to continue that conversation, and her and Puppet Mercedes went back and forth about how mean Mercedes was to Harley last week. And as they're doing this, the actual human Mercedes came out of her locker room and interrupted. Renee was actually very happy to see human Mercedes. I think partially just because she couldn't necessarily deal with the chaos of the puppet, but also because that Renee really wanted to get a word in with her, mentioning that she doesn't have a challenger for Grand Slam, and even brought up the fact that Harley got her win on Collision. So maybe she had some thought on Harley's ascension and the possibility of that matchup happening in, I think that's 10 days it is now. Mercedes completely laughs this off, saying she remembers her first win and her first championship win, and winning this title and this title and this title, and most importantly, the TBS championship, as she is the greatest TBS champ of all time. Meanwhile, Harley continues to be nothing but a loser, and losers don't get to ride the Monet train. And as she says this, Mercedes rips the Mercedes puppet off of Harley's hand, and that reveals Harley just flipping her off inside the puppet. Mercedes yells at Harley, human Mercedes yells at Harley to stay away from her locker room. And as she turns around and goes back inside, Harley begins to emphatically flip her off even more, causing, as you saw Producer Boy put up before, Renee to grab Harley's arm and try to hide her flipping the bird, and eventually
just holding hands.
Harley got away from it again and started flipping her off again, and then Mercedes had to Renee had to hold Harley's hand to keep it away. This was just pure comic gold, as everything Harley is doing lately is. The fact that they were able to get her skill of ventriloquism onto TV is insane. It's just absolutely top tier.
She's incredible. Like, objectively, Harley Cameron is an incredibly talented person, right?
Oh yeah, no, because she was in not vaudeville. What was the thing in oh god, I can't remember that. Moulin Rouge. What's the thing they have there? She's like one of those people.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why she can sing. That's why she can dance. That's why she plays guitar. That's why she
can wrestle.
Do ventriloquism. It's why she speaks like 5 different languages. And now it's one of the reasons she got into wrestling was to be able to come over here and work and show off some of these skills before finding something else. And then she just actually ended up being really fucking good at wrestling. So I was just more surprised. Not that she's talented. It was just more that, how do you work ventriloquism into wrestling promos? And damn, she's found a way to do it and do it well.
I am continuously amazed. I'm continuously blown away. I am absolutely rooting for her to not only get this match. I don't care that it doesn't make sense. Let her win the fucking title at Grand Slam. She could lose it back to Mercedes a week later. But let her win and have this huge, gigantic pop at Grand Slam.
I'm like, here's my I agree with you to an extent. I just don't know when they want to pull the trigger on Mercedes losing.
I don't care. I say this with respect to Mercedes, who is my favorite horsewoman. Eat the loss, get annoyed, destroy her the next week, and win the title back. take the loss. It's not going to hurt. She's held the championship for a long enough period of time that there is no joke about her not being able to hold on to championships.
Yeah,
Just do
you could do that. I was thinking maybe dusty finish, like an actual dusty finish.
I'm sure that Harley would be for it because she does what she's got to do. But I don't know.
Yeah, like if you did like an actual one where like Harley wins via DQ but doesn't get the title, I could see something like that working. But and then maybe like I don't know, Harley kicks the shit out of her after. Not like there's the way to do it, and without Mercedes losing the title. I'm just saying there is that avenue. This is why I don't book. I don't know, but I would love to see it. I would jump out of my chair. It'd be a bigger upset in the month of February than Jay winning the Rumble on Saturday. So, or if the Eagles win on Sunday. But I want it. I don't see it happening. But Harley at least I think is going to get this match, and she deserves to get this match.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as you know, saying she's becoming his number one girl, and yeah, she's definitely up there, man. She is so incredibly talented. I'm happy she's on my TV more. Yeah,
I'm really worried about comments that you were gonna pull up, buddy.
Yeah, don't worry.
I do like Eric's comment though. Yeah, he's an idiot. That was a fun episode because everyone seemed like they were having fun. I agree. And it helps create the organic energy that is sometimes missing from good wrestling shows. Like, undeniably, when WWE is hot, you could tell that the stars are having a good time and they're in it. You know, they are really enjoying themselves. And I don't want to say that that's been missing from AEW, but it was undeniable tonight. So just good overall show.
Yeah. And I could see there being a bit of trepidation the last year or so with people talking about the ratings going down and maybe the quality of the show not being as good. And maybe it did make everyone a little more tense, but I do think it's starting to loosen up a little bit. And you're right. There was a lot of that tonight. And then you can see also in WWE, just look at Jey Uso's entrance on Monday. He did it twice because the crowd wanted him to.
Yep.
And you had that type of organic fun, and that is when wrestling is at its best.
I agree.
Okay, let us move along here. After we came back from commercial, we went to another backstage interview as Renee was there to interview Hangman Adam Page. Renee asked him about looking for Swerve last week, and he called it a moment of weakness before telling her to never ask about it again. He actually almost answered her initially and then very quickly decided against it.
Yep.
Renee then asked about Christopher Daniels, saying he will no longer be able to wrestle, and if Hangman has any regrets about that. And Hanger says that there is not, as Daniels overstepped by challenging him to a Texas death match where he knew Hangman was going to hurt him. As Page continues to speak, he gets interrupted off camera, and that person is revealed to be Max Caster, who was sitting there waiting for Renee, and then he eventually got fed up and asked how much longer this was going to take since he's been waiting for a while now. Page asks if they have a problem, and Caster says they don't. And he actually respects what Hangman did to Daniels the other week, saying he'd love to see him hurt someone like Bowens like that, or maybe even put somebody like Billy Gunn in the hospital. Obviously, he'd do it himself, but he's been busy with the open challenge and being the best wrestler in the world and best wrestler alive, and just hasn't had time. Yeah. Heyman responds that he would love to put somebody in the hospital tonight, but since he doesn't see Bowens or Billy around, maybe he could go after someone like Caster. Max panics and says goodbye to Renee, saying he's going to go wait in his car, and Hangman follows, saying that he'll come with him.
Hangman is a naturally funny character.
He really is, even when he's being super serious like this.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to a comment from near the beginning from You Know It, saying he's been saying it for a long time now. Swerve and Hangman will team up. And I think it's inevitable at this point that it's probably going to happen. But I am loving this trajectory for Hangman. I think his feud with MJF, which has been simmering, it hasn't been like blowing up. It hasn't been
bubbling. It's been simmering. I think when it finally happens and it ends, I think that's the key to getting Hangman back on the side of the Angels. And it's as a Hangman fan, I'm excited. I miss him. So this was fun. Not much more to say about it. He didn't ask Renee not to talk about it. He told Renee not to talk about it. And I thought that was a nice touch. Yeah. Shows how crazy he is.
Eric say maybe that team up comes at All In. That's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Also, going back to Harley really quick, bringing up a good idea, saying you could do the time limit because TBS Championship does have a 20-minute time limit. Now,
that's true.
You're giving Harley and Mercedes 20 minutes. I'm totally okay with that. And then, have it go at 2, 2.5, or maybe even 3 with the bell. I'm cool with that. That's another great way of Harley almost gets the win. And then she ends up not, and Mercedes retains while Harley looks great. So
yeah,
trust me, Harley won't, I don't think she'll go over in Australia, but she will be put over even in the loss. That I have no doubt of. After this, we went back to the ring as we had our next match, which saw Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita of the Don Callis family face off against the newly rebranded Hounds of Hell, Brody King and Buddy Matthews, or Murphy, or Matthews.
Depends on if Ospreay's talking about it.
That carny piece of shit. Don was back on commentary. We'll jump towards the end of the match here. After laying Fletcher out with a knee strike, Matthews headed to the top rope, and as he does, we hear the coin drop and the music of Kazuchika Okada hit, distracting Buddy for a brief enough moment where it allows Fletcher to recover and prevent Matthews from reaching the top. Now, obviously, Okada never came out, and it was implied by Tony Schiavone on commentary that Don had this set up in order to distract Matthews. I was low-key expecting Okada backstage at the desk again, but I guess with the EVPs out there, he doesn't have that type of pull. Anyway, Matthews is quickly able to turn it around on Fletcher, though, and then he tags in Brody, and he and King hit a combo kick cannonball in the corner. And as Brody goes for the pin, it is broken up by Takeshita, who had climbed to the top and hit a drop kick into a senton onto Brody. So he drop kicked Buddy, and then as he did the drop kick, fell into Brody to break the pin up with a senton. It was really cool. Anyway, the 3 of those guys begin fighting, and that spills out onto the apron where Brody gets Takeshita in a sleeper hold, but Takeshita breaks it by raking Brody's eyes, allowing Fletcher to catch him in between the ropes and hitting a draping DDT that King shockingly kicked out of. Fletcher then tried to go for the brain buster, but he can't get Brody up, so Takeshita comes in and hits a rolling elbow. Fletcher then followed up with a super kick, and then the 2 of them hit a combination of those 2 moves before Takeshita assisted Fletcher in getting King up to hit the brain buster for the win. James, this was an awesome match. I expected it to be an awesome match, and it delivered. There was a great sequence between Brody and Takeshita right before the hot tag, where Takeshita hit a deadlift German suplex onto Brody, and he popped right back up and hit a rolling elbow. And then that led, I think, Brody tried to hit a Gonzo bomb. Takeshita got out of it. Both men hit the rope and then clotheslines each other.
Yeah.
And just a hoss match between the 2 of them. So I love this. I have one gripe, and it's that I know Buddy and Brody are an established tag team, but you just rebranded them.
I agree.
And you have them coming out here in a match they have to lose as you're building towards the Callis family facing off against Ospreay and Kenny.
Not a great night for the tag division. Right? Like, not a great night. I thought this was a banger. I thought that everybody had a relatively good spot or a good moment. I thought the finish was good. I liked them. I liked the assisted brain buster to get the win. You know, it protects Brody. But again, I agree with you. Just don't book this matchup. Not yet. Like, if you're dead set on giving Fletcher and Takeshita a win, there are other teams that you could do that with. So it's frustrating that happened. Brody and Buddy are
in a very precarious spot right now, considering the House of Black is no more, and they're rebranded as the Hounds of Hell, and we really need to establish what that means. And right now, what we're establishing is that they're losers.
Yep.
So not thrilled, but it's early. They can still turn things around, but not a great first step for the Hounds of Hell. Fletcher is amazing, and I love that so much of his moveset is Randy Orton's. And Takeshita is a beast. That German suplex was insanity.
Yeah. Full deadlift too. Like it wasn't it wasn't like Brody jumped. I'm sure he helped a little, but like Brody didn't jump. Like he straight up deadlifted.
He lifted him. He lifted him.
And then just great. I don't like saying great no sell a lot, but it made Brody look like such a beast in this. And that sequence, in the finishing sequence, having to be put out by both of those guys, one of them a champion and the other guy being clearly one of the top talents in the company. Like they always make Brody look really strong.
Yeah.
So I was very happy with this. As you know, I said really good match in the middle of the show. I thought it was one of the better parts of the show. And peak AEW, you just have 4 great fucking wrestlers put on a great fucking match.
Eric saying he agrees that, and he has to assume that they just aren't in full form yet. Probably, but let it happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Hounds of Hell shouldn't, like you said, they shouldn't have gone against these two guys in their first match since Malachi leaving. Like, I would have much rather see them go against 2 jobbers and beat the shit out of them for 2 minutes than see them. Like, not that I didn't want to see this match. This match was awesome. But storyline-wise, I much rather would have seen that. Just because these guys deserve a little more, deserve to be built up in a way following their breakup. Now, maybe this is part of the storyline.
Maybe.
That could be remain to be seen.
I mean,
like they get a little lost following the departure of Malachi,
but how much do you do it though? Because we know that Buddy's going to lose to Okada as well.
Yeah.
So it's just we're racking up losses here, and I also do really like that in the comments. It is coming to the realization about him looking like Randy and everything. So that's funny.
He does. Like his hair is now a little longer, so he's starting to look more like him. But he has a very similar type of build. He's not as jacked, I don't think, but he does kind of. I told you when he first shaved his head, he came out with those round glasses. He looked just like Woody Harrelson on the cover of Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, he did.
Now his hair's a little longer. He doesn't look like it as much. But yeah, I was very happy with how this match went and just how good it was, booking aside. All right, let's keep things rolling here. We next went backstage as we found Samoa Joe and Hook. Not Shibata on camera as Joe questioned who the hell that guy was. Hook like, it's Joe. It's not Joe, whatever. It's Kyle. He's cool. Don't worry about it. Shibata's in Japan. Anyway, Joe is obviously pissed after the post-match beatdown they got from the patriarchy following their win, Joe and Hook's win on Collision, and he wants some blood, leading Hook to tell him that when you're frustrated, you're not focused. And then Joe's like, dude, what'd I tell you about using my own stuff against me? And then they get to a door, and Joe's like, after you. So they go in the door, and they find Kip Sabian and Nick Wayne, and not Christian. So after some back and forth about inquiring where their father is, and then Kip telling them to get lost and whatever, Joe decides, well, if Christian's not there, maybe they can leave a message, and then proceed to just beat the fuck out of Sabian and Wayne.
As Christian walks in and sees it.
Well, no, so they left first. Oh, did he see it and then come back?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
He's watching the beatdown happening. He's peeking his head through the door with Mother Wayne. He looks fucking terrified and then closes the door and then doesn't go back again until the beatdown is over.
And then he rushes in after they leave, like, oh my God, what happened? Okay, I was wondering why he sounded so sarcastic.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed that. That's really funny.
It was a great bit.
Yeah, and then the camera cut out. I don't know if it was because Christian shoved it or like something just happened. But either way, we went to and it led to them going commercial, so it didn't really matter. Oh, that's great. That makes it that much better.
Yep.
Father of the Year making
Oh no! Producer boy pulled it down. It
I
was
got
right
it. Father
there.
of the Year protected the woman, making sure she was safe from the beatdown.
No. I mean, producer boy pulled down the tweet showing it happening, and
okay.
it was producer boy just jumped to the end
where we see Christian leave. No.
This is fantastic stuff.
I don't know how I missed it. That's so funny. All right. I love Christian. Jeez. And I'm so happy Joe is back.
Me too.
He makes everything so much better. All right. Speaking of Joe, let's move along to one of his old rivals as MJF came down to the ring for a promo. He comes out and immediately starts running down Jeff Jarrett, saying all Jarrett had to do was stay out of his way, joking that the E in AEW stands for elite, not elderly. But now that Jarrett's out of the way, he can finally return to getting back his Triple B, since nobody is on the level of the devil. And as he starts to try to finish the sentence, Max Caster comes sprinting into the ring, terrified, in just absolute panic, and interrupts MJF. So MJF starts screaming at him, and all Caster can do is like hide behind his patents and like poke over it and just go, "Hey, Hangman, Hangman!" And then MJF's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then Hangman's music hits and just pisses off MJF even more. So Hangman comes out and he gets the ring, and he and MJF go nose to nose before Hangman decides, "Why the hell am I doing this?" And he leaves to go continue his chase of Caster, which super pisses off MJF, asking the crowd if they like cowboy shit, calling Hanger a talentless hack, and eventually getting back to trying to say at the level of the, and he again gets cut off, and this time it is by the music of Dustin Rhodes. Rhodes come out and start screaming at Max being MJF, Caster's gone, saying that he needs to stop disrespecting everyone in the back, needs to stop talking about their wives, and needs to stop bringing up their past addictions, because he is one of those guys who has been through hell and back, and there is nothing MJF can do to him that he has never seen before. Dustin says he is the last of his kind, and when he is done, the mold will be broken because he is better than Max, and his punk bitch ass knows it. MJF sarcastically applauds Dustin, but then takes exception to Dustin saying he's better than him, going immediately for the thing Dustin just told him not to do, saying that years of drug addiction must have addled his brain and turned it into mush. He then says that it took Dustin 37 blood-soaked years to get out of the shadow of his father, which elicited a lot of boos and anger from Rhodes. And then, to really drive the point home, MJF says that after all of that, he now lives in the shadow of his little baby. And before Max can even say brother, because all he did tonight was get cut off, Dustin rocked him in the face with a right hand, and they begin to have a brawl. Security quickly came out and split the two of them up, and eventually they got MJF headed up the ramp. But since everything seemed to be calming down, they backed off a bit, and MJF then sprinted back into the ring. And as Dustin goes to square up, MJF just kicked him right in the balls. And I mean, it was a shot.
Yeah, a goal.
Oh, no, that was a punt.
Yeah.
And Dustin collapsed, and obviously MJF left again, having won this round. And as he's leaving, Christopher Daniels, who had come out with security, attempted to direct MJF out, and Max took exception to CD touching him, and so he kind of stepped to CD. Daniels backed up, and then Max remarked that Hangman must have really done a number on him. So a lot of moving parts in this section, James. All of it worked very well, though. We see Hangman just chasing Caster, which is funny. MJF did well enough in his promo spots, but we got interactions with both him and Hangman, which I think we're continuing to plant seeds for a future thing, and a shorter term thing with him and Dustin Rhodes as Dustin comes to the defense of both his friends Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart, who we had mentioned before, saying that MJF better keep Owen's name out of his mouth.
And more importantly, we had a reunion of the Maxes.
Yep.
Something we haven't seen in a long, long time. I didn't know what this segment was. I said as much in our chat. What is this? But it played so well. MJF played off of everybody so well. Everything flowed in a way that kind of made sense. And I'm very surprised to see Dustin Rhodes, champ Dustin Rhodes right now, 6-man tag champ and tag team champ for Ring of Honor. But I wasn't expecting it. I just wasn't expecting it. So, I'm gonna lean more towards it in the comments here, saying MJF looked better tonight. I hold him to a high standard, and that was better than the last few TV appearances. I really think there's a great story to be told with Max, where he's getting more and more frustrated.
Wait, with MJF or with Cap?
MJF.
Just
He's getting,
sure.
No, you're right. He's getting more and more frustrated with how AEW is being run, and that things were better when he was champ. I think there's a great story to be told there, and I hope they get to it eventually. But yeah, fun segment. So he's not going to be feuding with Dustin. Dustin is definitely just a stop on the Jeff Jarrett feud, right?
Yeah, we'll get to it later. I can even just really cover it quickly.
Yeah,
we went to Dustin backstage. I think after the Timeless Tony Storm match, which we'll talk about next. And he was just yelling and screaming and challenged Max to a match next week, saying he was going to kick his ass. And then the match was made official before we went off the air tonight. Thank you for switching.
And he very awkwardly called him a bitch at the end of it.
Yep.
Like he finished the promo, and then I think he needed to remember that he needed to call him a bitch. So he was just like, bitch. It was
Okada-like.
Yeah, it really unintentionally so, but yes.
But yeah, I think you're right. This is kind of a stop along the Jeff Jarrett train, because I liked Max's appearance, MJF's appearance last week.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really do anything. He just kind of came out, assaulted Jarrett, and then talked shit about at him and left. And that's kind of what I expect from MJF. And it was short. So I think it helps following his last recent flubs. And then tonight we got a good MJF because he cut the, kind of same old shit promo, but it was unique because he had multiple people to play off of.
Yeah.
And it allowed him to show a bit more of his range that I know he's capable of, despite the fact he has seemingly just fallen back into his old shtick again. Because Dustin brought up good points.
Yeah.
He talks about the same shit every time when he's going after somebody. He brings up their past, and that past is either, their wives or their drug habits or both or whatever it is. And it's like, bro, get some new stuff.
Yeah.
So I know that's not why Dustin was telling him not to do that, but it did kind of ring a chord for me.
It felt meta.
Strike a chord for me, because it was a little meta.
Yeah.
I do like calling MJF stuff right now the seniors tour. I think what do they call it now? Because they don't call it the seniors tour for golf anymore. It's called something else.
I'm not sure.
They call it like the Champions Tour now, and it's all the old guys. But yeah, I like this segment. We'll see what happens with MJF. Hopefully he's not off the tracks, but he's definitely teetering a little.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can right the train here. After that, I believe we went to commercial and we came back with our next match, which saw Queen Aminata face off against, and this is the way this was announced, playing the role of the glamour Mariah May, Timeless Toni Storm. Now, Mariah was on commentary for this, phenomenal as always, and she bugged at Toni coming out as her, and Toni played her great. She had the hair extensions in, which kind of fell apart during the match, which kind of made it funnier. But Toni had Mariah down pat in the ring with all the mannerisms, the way she walked. It was better than Mariah had ever played Toni, despite the fact Mariah was yelling like, "I did this shtick first. She's just stealing from me. I did it better. I was given all that gear. Toni just probably stole it and probably had to have it really adjusted." She even made a comment to Shivani that Toni is missing two things while holding her breasts. And Shivani's like, I mean, I'm not going to say what those things are, but you're not wrong. Poor Shivani was put in a spot there. But this was just great. Toni is on another level right now. Meanwhile, in the ring, to get to the end of this, after countering an air raid crash with a DDT, Toni hit it's going to be May like 2 seconds after Mariah said she was going to hit one. And that sent Queen Aminata into the corner. Toni then went to the opposite corner, imitated Mariah. Instead of doing like the Timeless Toni Storm thing, she did the Mariah finger thing, finger in the mouth thing. Bonk, you know it. I already saw you talking about that earlier. And then,
all right, collective bonk.
Yes.
Collective bonk.
And then Toni hit a hip attack in the corner, following up with a Mayday for the win. After the match, Renee came in to interview Toni and ask her about it. But Toni told Renee to call her Mariah, almost perfectly imitating Mariah's voice. And then going into Mariah's entire shtick about being the woman from hell and holding a boot to the neck of everybody in the division, to the point where Mariah, who was still on commentary, got irate and went up onto the apron. However, instead of like getting ready to fight, Toni seemed to gesture at Mariah like she was going to hug her the way like Mariah did on Saturday a couple of weeks ago when she met rookie Toni Storm. And it kind of just freaked Mariah out. So she decided to grab her title and leave, screaming as she was going that she is the real Mariah. So this is just 10 out of 10 match. The match was good. I like the Aminata from what I see from her, which is mostly in the ring. I know she's feuding with Serena Deeb right now, who was watching backstage. So she had a good match. Good person to put Toni against because it allowed a good match while also allowing for this great bit from Toni really getting into the head of Mariah. And Aminata too played off of it well, imitating Toni, who was imitating Mariah. But just honestly, this was just a great segment overall. I can't say enough good things about it, James. So please say some stuff for me as we say hello to Seth freaking Rollins. Great job at the Rumble on Saturday, buddy. I'm sorry you got eliminated.
The double curb stomp to Roman, 2 feet to Roman at once.
Everyone thought that was a mistake. Like everyone's saying he's kind of slipped on Roman's hair.
No, I think that was a message. I think he was saying he knows Samoans have thick heads.
Also, he did it lefty and he normally does it righty, so I think that threw Seth off a little too.
Yeah, I think
so. But back to this match because again, yes, the Emmy goes to Toni Storm.
Look, this was on a night full of great moments and a night full of great action. This stood out. Aminata has been impressing with every opportunity that's been given to her. She really got a big bump and highlight as she was going against Mariah May with the Sky Blue storyline a few months back. She's been killing it in Ring of Honor. And she's just, you could tell that there's a little bit, again, we make fun of the word and how old we are when we say the word, but she's got that aura to her. So I personally, my prediction is by the end of the year, we're going to see a very elevated Queen Aminata. And if she's not, Toni's fumbling. But the match itself was great. Toni Storm is... We're all playing checkers and she's playing 4D chess. So she's just fantastic. She is fantastic. Mariah knows how to play off of her. She plays very well off of her, but the timeless Toni Storm character, which easily could have run out of fuel a long time ago.
I don't even know what happened.
The timeless Toni Storm character, which easily could have run out of steam a long time ago. Yes, he is right. It's so good still, and it's so fresh still. Mariah said it. She did it months ago. She portrayed timeless Toni Storm, and she did well. Toni really killed it with Mariah tonight. So just excellent work.
Mariah did both Timeless Tony Storm and Tony Storm.
Yes.
She did all three. She did Rookie Tony, or NXT Tony, I guess, and then Outcast
Timeless.
Tony, and then Timeless
yeah.
Tony.
Yeah.
After she had betrayed Tony. So there is that. There is now a weird part of me, and we'll see. We got another episode of Collision, and another episode of Dynamite. I want to see Timeless Tony Storm as Mariah May versus Mariah May as Tony Storm.
My God, that would be great.
Because
That would be
Excalibur had
incredible.
he had a hard enough time calling this match tonight. Could you imagine if they just both flip flop?
Ugh.
It would be like when Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne fought each other as each other.
Yeah.
Except this time there's a lot more hatred involved, and it's not just Halloween. And
I am almost a little mad at you because how much I need this to happen now, and if it doesn't, there is going to be so much disappointment.
I wonder if we might get it as a promo maybe on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Just because Mariah goes, like, maybe on Saturday, she's like, okay, 2 could play at that game. And then Wednesday, she comes out either as any of the Tonys, and then, to try to screw with Tony's head. But I would kill for it to be the actual match.
Yeah.
And if I hear 2 could play at that game, and I do not see a Mariah Tony Storm, or Tony Storm Mariah, this is getting confusing. Mariah dressed as Tony Storm before next Saturday, we are getting that match, and that would be the greatest thing to happen in the entirety of, I'm going to say, of all of wrestling.
In all of space and time.
Yes.
As Matt Hardy would put it.
That would just be, please, RJ City to me. I'm pretty sure you're the guy booking this. I really hope this is where you're going with it.
We'll tweet at him.
It would be the greatest thing. No, I don't want to, because I think he has to change his idea. Because I've seen people say, like, if you guys tell me what to do, I can't do it because it's your idea, and then, like, you have, like, intellectual credit for it. So, no. Don't tweet at him. RJ, if you do use it, go. It's all yours. Just do it. I just want to see it. That's all I care about. God, I hope that happens.
Good booking there.
This was so good. It was crazy. Like, Mariah did a really good job of being Tony.
Yeah.
Tony did so well at being Mariah.
Completely agree.
Oh God, I want that so bad now. But all right. Let me get my thoughts back together because a lot was going on mentally there. After this, we had that Dustin Rhodes promo we talked about. And then we went to Chris Jericho's New York Minute. This time it was actually live from the stage in the city of ALT, as he called it. Appreciate Learning Tree, according to Brian Keith. Anyway, they had initially showed a recap of Powerhouse Hobbs versus Big Bill in their street fight on Collision in Jacksonville. And then we also saw a recap of Bandito finally making his return on Collision, helping out the Outrunners take out the Learning Tree. So
Thank
Jericho,
God, right? Thank God he's back.
Yeah,
Again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did he come back and then
he came back
and they forgot about him?
No, he came back, wrestled at Ring of Honor, and immediately got a concussion at that Ring of Honor
right.
show. Yeah.
Was it the one in Hammerstein?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I forgot about that.
Terrible luck.
I'm glad he's healthy. Hopefully he can stay as much.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jericho addresses him, questioning how he's such a wanted man since nobody wants him in AEW. But since Bandito is indeed in the company, Jericho decides he's going to turn it into a teaching moment and unfurls the sign for the wanted poster for Bandito, revealing the $100,000 bounty he has on his head. And since that Jericho has an actual bounty hunter by his side, which they finally acknowledged who Brian Keith actually is, Jericho says he will double the bounty when Keith does to him what Big Bill did to Powerhouse Hobbs during their street fight. As Bill then goes to call out Hobbs, Hobbs' music hits, and he comes out, and that leads to a brawl, which is quickly joined by the Outrunners. So Jericho and Keith take on the Outrunners as security floods out onto the stage, and Bill and Hobbs end up on opposite sides of the ring as those four guys kind of fight off into the back. each holding a security guard in their hand by the throat. And they kind of have this stare down, and then Bill choke slams his guy. So Hobbs is like, all right, I guess I had the same, and power slams his guy. And then the two get into the ring, and then they just start big man brawling to a meat chant, and they brawl out of the ring over the announce desk, knocking out commentary, and then eventually they knocked out the camera, and that led us into commercial. And then when we came back, we saw there was still a lot of rabble going on as all these men were being kicked out of the building by security, leading us to believe there's going to be a lot more between at least the 6 of them, probably more, depending on if what's his name gets back involved, Bandito. So this was cool. I've been enjoying these segments to set up for Collision because I'm a big Hobbs fan, and Bandito's cool. I'm glad he's back. Outrunners are great. Even though they haven't been on in a while on Dynamite. And honestly, like, we're getting Jericho in these shorter doses on Dynamite. So
Makes it easier to digest.
It really does, because he's mostly on Collision now, and I don't watch it. I keep up with it on YouTube. So I'm enjoying him, and they're funny, and he plays well off of Keith, and I'm enjoying the storyline with Bill, because that is very clearly building up, and I'm very much enjoying that.
Yeah. No, I love my meaty guys. I love Powerhouse Hobbs. I said what I said. I know what I said. And I have been waiting for the big Bill push. Ever since his run in TNA or his run in Impact as W. Morrissey, and he was this unstoppable monster over there. I knew what he was capable of, and I knew what I wanted to see here. And I can't say he's been treated terribly by AEW. He had like a bit of a stumble in the very beginning when he was supposed to be part of that what was the group with
oh god.
Yeah.
I forgot about whatever that was.
It was MJF's Devil group with the Guns, Lee Moriarty, the Firm. Was it the Firm?
Yeah, the Firm.
Yeah.
You may control that Firm. Yep.
So, like, there was a brief misstep with the Firm, but after that, he won a tag team title.
With Stokely.
With Stokely. He won a tag team title. He with Ricky Starks. He's been on this run with Jericho that's been funny, and now he's showing off that he's a badass too. So I'm here for it. Let it be a good run. Let both of these men look great. I want Hobbs to come out on top, but I hope this leads to a split, because it feels like it's leading to a split from Big Bill and Jericho, which is just silly when you really think about it. Why Jericho would have an issue with his biggest gun just feels very silly. But regardless, I'm here for it. Let both of these men thrive, and let the meat madness commence.
Well, I think Hobbs will end up winning the feud.
Yeah.
And it's been a very good feud. That match looked violent, that street fight.
Yeah.
And the reason I think Hobbs is going to win the feud is because that will lead to the split, because Bill is failing Jericho. Now, you say, oh, why would he want to get rid of his biggest gun? Yeah, part of it is ego, a saying. And the ego of it being Jericho is trying to teach Big Bill, and Big Bill is failing and not applying his teachings. And that would eventually, I don't think, lead to Jericho turning on Bill, but Bill turning on Jericho. I think Jericho is going to continue to berate him to the point where Bill's like, I've gotten some wins here, bro. Like, what the fuck? I'm implying your teachings. And then Jericho's going to continue to run him down until Bill eventually Batistas him.
And I get that, and I agree. I think that's exactly how we get to where we're going. But Keith loses just as much, and he doesn't do this to Keith. So, a little confusing, but it's fine. It's fine. I am ready for this to eventually split up anyway.
Yeah, but I think it's done a good job of getting Bill over more. Like, not that he's already over or not over. People know him. I think people like him, and they've just been looking for a reason to cheer him. And I think this has given people a very good one.
Yes. Yeah. No,
so
I agree.
This has more than done its job. And I think for me, like, in a small sense, this helped bring Jericho back a little bit. Just seeing him do something like this, as opposed to what he was doing, which was just getting annoying, which was just, honestly, it was the Hook feud. The Hook feud sucked. I'm sorry.
It really did.
Does he still have the Ring of Honor title? Side note.
Jericho, yes.
Okay, I didn't. I'm not sure if I saw it tonight, but
I didn't either. But he is still the champion.
Yeah. One more note on Big Bill. We had Enzo and Cass on the Jericho cruise over the weekend. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
That was great.
And even then, there was some controversy apparently that Enzo needed to tweet about it to like the Busted Open guys because they were like busting chops, I think, about alcohol around Big Bill.
Oh,
because he's a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah, that's kind of a dick thing to say.
I don't know the context of it, but I think
unless it was like
instance,
involved in the match or like somebody hit him with a beer or something from the crowd. Like I didn't see the match.
I have to go check it out, but it sounds like this is a rare instance where Enzo didn't do anything wrong.
I didn't really like the crowd when they were going through it. Enzo couldn't say their names.
Yeah.
So he just let the crowd do it, and the crowd said Big Bill instead of Big Cass, or most.
That's funny.
Which I thought
like
was
that.
Cool.
I look. Say what you will about Enzo. At the end of the day, he turned out to not have done anything cancelable. So I'm surprised nobody's given him a second chance.
He just never really like got his act together in the way Bill did. Like Bill will admit, like he was a bit of hard to work with back then, and I'm sure some of that had to do with his substance problems. But he not only has gotten over that, he seemingly has become a much more humble person and easier to work with. Whereas Enzo still seemingly reportedly has that ego and can be a bit of a pain.
I believe it, and I say this with respect to the company that I cover. TNA didn't take him?
Fair.
Come on.
Fair. All right. Just quickly wanted to say that agree with me about the Mariah May Toni Storm match, and the RJ should really do it. And he liked the New York Minute, which I did as well. He also thinks that we could get to a Bill versus Samoa Joe match in the future, which would be pretty cool. Oh, Bill seeks counseling from the father being, I guess, Christian, and that leads to Bill versus Joe. But I don't know. I feel like if Bill steps away, he'll probably be from Jericho. I imagine he'll be face going straight to Christian. I can see how that would work in some regard, but not after this. I think if he had gone to Christian in the first place, it would have been a similar thing.
Yeah.
But I guess they also probably didn't want to just replace one big man with another.
Yeah.
After Luchasaurus left, and hopefully he's doing well. I haven't heard any.
Apparently, he's doing a lot better.
But good. I'm glad to hear.
Apparently, he's doing a lot better, and who knows? I'm not saying anytime soon, but there was a fear he might not ever be able to wrestle again, and I think that fear is gone.
Yeah, I thought there was a fear he might not make it. So,
well, I mean, it was bad, but
yeah,
it's to the point that we can expect to see him again.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But all right, that was Dynamite. And James, as I said at the top, this was far better than last week. Top to bottom, this was a great show.
Yeah,
I thought we came out of the box hot with that brawl. We had some good matches with Ospreay, which arguably might have been the quote unquote worst match on the card.
I know,
and it was still a really good match. Heard Syndicate came out, had a good promo. Guns came back. Harley was great. Mariah was spectacular. The tag match was spectacular, booking aside. And the main event was also great. Like, just top to bottom, this is what Dynamite should feel like every week.
I completely agree. I got to hand it to Producer Boy. He said something in our group chat that he's right. It's great to see AEW utilize all their biggest stars segment after segment on the same show. I understand you can't always do that every week because you want to let other things breathe and you want to see other people get a moment to shine. But this was a star-studded Dynamite. And the more of that, the better. And I think the more of that will head into a good direction for AEW.
Yeah, especially too because you're building up to this really big show next Saturday. A show you're really taking a chance on, having it be in Australia, late night after again All-Star Saturday night. So they're taking a risk on it, and I think building it up with some of your biggest stars on your flagship show is a good way to do it. I know Dynamite isn't going to feel like this every week.
Yeah.
But God, I wish it could.
Right? Hey, we're getting there because there was a good point in time where AEW's talent, a lot of them were either hurt or doing something or whatever. Kenny was gone. Cole was gone. MJF was gone. So many of the top guys were gone. And now they're all back on top of other stars being added. Stars like Bobby Lashley and Shelton who are over.
Yep.
Hangman is back. Like, you can justifiably have a star-studded show every week now. So let's see. I'm very, very hopeful.
And you could look at tonight and you can be like, well, Adam Cole wasn't there. And you could swap out a good chunk of these segments for, you know, if you had to do, not segments, but like a group or something to put Adam Cole in there. And you wouldn't think anything less of the amount of star power on the show.
Exactly.
Whether or not you like what Cole's doing at the moment, you know, depends on you. But
yeah,
that's the depth with AEW is so great that you could have a show with this level of star power every week, even if we don't see everybody who was on the show tonight. And hopefully they are able to balance that and do it well going forward, because I think that right now might be the trickiest thing they have to do. Between doing it on here and doing it on Collision, they only have those 4 hours of TV. So, you know, it's distracting me. But yeah, I think hopefully Tony Khan can work all that out and continue to put on great television like this, because goddamn, this was good. Well,
just give me the puppet, you know it.
Jesus. He did say it was the second best thing on the show. Obviously behind Tony being Mariah, which again,
hold on one second.
Why am I? Oh God. Now I'm nervous. I was going to start wrapping up the show. All right, let James figure out what he's got to do. I'm just going to say, I was going to overall bonk everybody, and then thank you all for watching the Mark It Down podcast. We'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. If you liked the episode, and lets us know that you like what we're doing, and we continue to do the same stuff. And if you subscribe, you can continue to get all the great stuff we do here on the channel. I'm assuming James will be back here tomorrow night for the Gym Pack Zone. He will let me know in a minute. Oh, God. He's usually here on Thursdays for all of you TNA fans. And then we are covering a little bit of Raw and SmackDown. Usually not SmackDown, but when something big happens, we will do our best to cover that. And then Raw's kind of the same thing. It really just depends on who's around. And then obviously we are back here on Wednesdays for Dynamite, along with most of the pay-per-views that we can get to. We will hopefully be able to cover Grand Slam, as this is exactly what I was afraid of. Who is that, James?
Ashy Slashy.
Should I know what that's from?
No, you're not a horror guy. It's from Evil Dead, but...
Oh, okay. I know Evil Dead. He just said Evil Dead.
This is awesome. Am I doing it, or is my lips moving? Yeah, they moved.
You move on the M. It's really hard to do. You kind of have to really try to figure it out.
One day.
Thank you. You know what? We appreciate it. It's good to see you, man. Thank you for joining us again. James, I assume you're going to be back here tomorrow for Gym Packs?
Yes, I will be here for Gym Packed. It should be a good show. We're following up from Dirty Dango, Fandango, appearing in NXT this last Tuesday, which means that the system is probably not far behind, which means Moose is not far behind. So...
That was wild. I just saw that on my Twitter feed. I was like, wait, what? Just to hear the music again was great. So yeah, a lot of NXT TNA stuff, crossover happening. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely check out the Gym Pack Zone. James will be covering all of it. If you want to follow us on our social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky, all in the link in the description below. If you're watching us over on Twitter or on Facebook, you want to follow us on any of those channels and don't have the link, check us out on Twitter at marketdown_pod. Instagram is at marketdownpod, youtube.com/marketdown3665. And The Blue Sky is marketdownpod.bsky.social or whatever it is. Just you can search us there or Facebook and you'll find us real quick. James, anything before we get out of here for the evening?
Yes, this week I had the fun opportunity to jump onto another podcast. A good buddy of mine, he runs a horror podcast. It's called T Watches a Scary Movie. Good guy, friend of the pod, big wrestling fan. I put the link in one of our comments. Go check it out. Go support his page. Go give him a follow. There's a very, very good chance he's going to be joining us for a show here or there, and we'll see. But go check it out. And of course, thank you guys for checking us out. And yes, of course, I have a puppet. Of course, I do.
Yeah, James has so many props in his house.
I am, in a lot of ways, a less funny Harley Cameron for our group.
And less Australian.
And less talented, too. But it's the same spirit. It's the same energy.
I just got the accent. All right, I don't think we could do any better than that. So for producer boy Eric Grisanti in the background and James Grisanti, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Have a good night, everyone. I'm not acknowledging the puppet.